Okay, so hello everyone. Today we're going to look at usaco-training shopping offers. Okay, so in this problem, we're given a shop, and in that shop we have some products which have integer prices, and the prices are in Zork mids, which is basically their currency. So an example would be a flower that costs two 2Z, or a vase that costs 5Z. Okay, so not only does the shop support like single items, it also supports like special offers. So a special offer consists of some products for a reduced price. So for example, it could say, I'll give you 3 flowers for 5Z instead of 6Z, or how about like 2 vases together with 1 flower for 10Z. So we're going to write a program to calculate the minimum price a customer has to pay, given like which items the customer has to buy and the quantity of each of those items. Okay. So we actually have to get exactly the quantity that we're given, so we're not allowed to get extra items either. Right, so for example, we can see that in this case we have 2 offers. The first offer consists of 1 product, which means CNK. So the first one would be the product code over here. So product 7, you basically they would give you three um three items of product 7 for 5Z, and for the second one you would get 1 7 and 2 8 for a total of 10Z. And over here it says that, okay, we're also given like our shopping list, meaning that we have to get right, so we have to get three three items of type 7 and 2 items of type 8, and we also know that we can buy these individually for 2Z and 5Z. Okay, so the lowest price for this would be 14. Alright, so we can actually apply a bit of knapsack here. So notice that there's only a total of 5 items at most. That's actually, so 5 items. Whoops, crayon. So 5 items at most. And the amount of those would be at most 999, or actually like how much it has to be purchased. So you would have 5 items or to be purchased for each product or for each item. Alright, so given that, we can basically construct our knapsack. So we could do dp of let's just call this 5, like with 5 dimensions. Whoops, last one should be E. So E. What? So E. So the first one, or the first dimension, A, would be the number of A purchased. Or A in this case would be like item number 1 this would be item number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. And this would, like similar here, would be number of B purchased. And you would actually do the same thing for C and D and E. And let's calculate the total number of states we have. Since for each of these, it may have at most 5 items for this, so you would have basically a dimension of 5. Over here, the same goes 5, 5, 5, and 5. This would result in 5 to the 5th power, which is a pretty small number, so we can basically handle this. Okay, so now we're going to expect that we calculated dp, A, B, C, D, and E. So how are we going to use this dp state to make our next state? What we can do is that we can try to apply the S offers. So we're going to apply S offers. So for example, if an offer provides you, let's just say, 2 items of type B and let's just say 5 items of type E. So then our new state would become dp, A would stay the same, B would increment by 2, C, D, and E plus 5. So then this state would be equal to the minimum of its original cost and dp, A, B, C, D, E plus the cost of offer. Right, so that's one case since we can just try applying each offer at once. So now we can also consider buying a single item. So what we would have is that, okay, again, you know dp, A, B, C, D, and E. Right, so now let's just say that we want to buy an item of the second type. So our next state would become dp, A, B plus 1 since we're buying one item, C, D, and E. So again, this would become min, this, and dp, A, B, C, D, E, whoops, E plus the price of item. All right, so that's basically our transitions. So let's talk about our base case. So we know that we can get nothing at all for $0. So then dp of 0, 0, 0, 0, and 0 would be equal to 0. So that's our base case. And our answer would be basically the amount that we need. So it would be basically dp A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5, which AI equals the number of items we need to buy of item I. Right, so now that we know that, we can basically just apply that. So let's actually get coding. Here, let's go. Okay, so there we go. All right. Okay, so that's just a minute. So first line is going to be the number of offers. So we have S. Okay. Okay, next line, or for each of our offers, or let's actually let's just have a structure. So that let's call this D. So D is going to store our price and basically the number. So this would be, let's just call this quantity. So let's call this N. And we know that there's at most N products. So there we go. That's our N. Okay, so over here, because we actually have 5, so that would be equal to 5. Right. So for each of our J or each of our S, or what do you call that? Our S offers, we're going to first read in the number of products. Let's call this X, or let's call this K. So, all right. So now that we read that, we're going to loop through each of our products, or let's actually create a new structure that we define here. So let's call this D. D would be equal to, well, let's just initialize it like that. Right. So what we can do here is that instead of making that, we can use a vector instead, since it would just auto initialize to 0. Let's actually use an array since it's constant size. All right. So over here, for each of those K products, we're first going to read in, or that's actually a bad. Okay, so we actually have N here. All right, and then here it says that we have C and K. So we're going to read C, K. And then, okay, so we want K items of C. Okay, so we actually have to define C and K. And over here, what we want to do is that since the product code is in the range of 1 to 999, we actually want to kind of like semi-hash it. So what you want to do here, you want the ID and just have 1000, and you want to calculate our current ID, which should be 0. All right, so let's call this get ID int x. So if we haven't gave it an ID yet, or let's actually mem set it to -1. So over here, if ID of x is equal to -1, then we want to give it a new ID. So an ID of x would be equal to, say, d. And you want to increment that, and then we're just going to return ID here. Right. So now that we read that, we're going to put d.n of IDC would be equal to k, meaning that we want k items, or this offer contains k items of C. This should be get ID. All right, that looks good. Okay, so next, what we're going to have is that we're going to read in the price. So we're just going to read in the price. All right, so after this, we're going to insert this into our, let's call this our DD, meaning we can use these DD offers. All right, push back D. Okay, what's wrong here? Oh, this should be D. All right, looks good. So now we're going to read in, or we're going to read in how many products we have. So let's call this P, which is going to mean the number of products we have. We're going to read it. All right, so then for each of those P products, we're going to have C can P. So we're actually, let's call this B. I'm just going to go with the input, or with the sample. So we're going to have C, K, and P. So C, K, and P. All right, so it means that our product code is C, and we want k of those, and each of those can have or we can buy it for a price of p. All right. So then we're going to do is that we actually want to store the k differently, since that's going to be the going to like it's what we're going to use for our answer. Okay, so let's actually look back here. So over here, this should actually be ki, not ai actually, because this is the number of products for each I we're going to have to buy. So okay, so over here we actually have to store ki in an array. So let's call this kk. So this is going to have at most 5. So then we're going to set kk of get id c equal to k. Okay, so after that, we're going to have is that we have the ID, and now we want to get this price. So what you can do is that over here, whoops. Okay, so I mentioned that we have two cases. We can either apply an offer, or we can either choose a specific item to buy. So we can actually combine these two into one, because notice that over here this just increments this by 1, but over here this may increment many. So this is actually pretty similar, and we just set the price of the item to the cost of the offer. So then over here, again, we can create a new d. So then d dot p would be equal to p, and d dot n of get idc will be equal to 1, meaning that you can get 1 for a price of p. Alright, so now we're done reading the input in, so we're going to start calculating our dp. So we have basically 5 dimensions of 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is that we're going to set the dp to a very big value, since we want to have the lowest price. So memset dp. Alright, so then we're going to set, assuming that we're going to buy nothing, each of those would be equal to 0. So 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 be equal to 0. Alright, now we're going to loop through each I from 0. Or let's actually take a look at this. So we can actually have an array of 5. So we can do for a0 equals to 0 to kk of 0. Alright, and over here we have for a1, or let's actually just copy and paste that. So a1, kk1, a1. Okay, so a2, kk2, a2. 3, 3, 3, and 3, 4, 4, 4, and 4. So that's going to be all our DP states. And then we're going to loop through all the possible offers that we're going to have. So then what you're going to have is we're going to loop through each offer. So for basically constant each D we have here, let's call this D. In our DD, we're going to try to apply this offer. So let's call this B. Okay, so we haven't used B, so, or we actually have, so let's call this C. So C is going to be the number or our next state. So let's look at, oops, here. So here what we have here is our A. So this is our A of 5. And over here, this should be our next state, so this would be an array of C. It would be called C. So over here, we have an array called C. So then, for int I from 0 to 5, or to 4 actually, ci will be equal to ai plus the number of products we have. So it would be d dot n I. All right. So notice that all of these could actually go out of bounds. So then we're just going to have a quick check over here. Whoops. All right. So we're going to have a bool. Okay, there should be one by default, which is true. So if ci is greater than kk of I, then we know that we cannot do this. So then over here, if not okay, we're going to continue. Alright, so now we're going to assume that this may be a possible transition. So then we know our next state, which is going to be dp of C0, C1, C2, C3, C4 will be equal to min, let's copy that. I'm not a fast typer, so there you go, dp. So then this would be dp A0, A1, A2, A3, whoops, what did I do wrong here? A2, A3, A4, plus the cost of this switch is going to be d dot p. Right? Okay. Yeah, okay, so that. No errors. Very nice. So at the end, we're just going to print the cost, which is going to be dp kk0, kk1, kk2, kk3, kk4. Alright, so let's hope that works. I'm just gonna run it. Okay. Looks like it's hitting some. Alright, so. Okay, so that is kind of big. So C of I would be equal to A of I plus the number of that. Alright. Into 5. Interesting. So each time we're incrementing A4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks all aligned here. KK get ID. Z0. Alright, that looks great. D.P. So if not, okay, we're gonna continue. So looks like it's actually having a pretty big number here. Since we should actually loop through all states. So we're going to, let's actually print out what we have in this get ID. So we're going to print get ID of number is going to be whatever number we have. So get ID of C would be equal to get ID C. Alright. Okay, get ID 7 equals to 0, get ID 8 equals to 1. That looks great. Alright. So we're setting DP0000 into 1. And what we have here, so what we can do is that we can actually print out the DP value. So we're going to print DP number equals to number. So A0, A1, A2, A3, A4 equal to DP. Let's actually just copy and paste what we have here. Alright. Okay. So run input. Alright. Okay, so DP01 DP.N. Okay. Alright. Okay, let's see what we can do here. So let's actually have a static array, so we can have D into P will be equal to 0 and N0 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 equals to 0. Okay, so I think that's a little bit better. We do not have as many infinite values. Oh, okay, I see why. So over here, remember I said that we push back our offer. We can also, or we have to also push back our single item things. So since we're actually counting these two together, we actually have to push them into the same vector that we loop through in our transition. So that's correct. That's great. All right. So let's just run that. Make sure we did not print anything else. And okay. Okay, 14, that's correct. We're reading from shopping.in, read, and we're writing to shopping.out, right? Right. ID, problem, shopping, language. Alright, so let's get over here, select the file. Alright, this is YouTube, alright, shopping. There we go. Okay, so that is correct. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Bye. Alright, so here we go.